We've been hearing about great liberated beings. They're usually gods, great sages, great kings, and even demon lords. And then we hear, but there can even be liberated beings among the worms and insects, just as there are stupid fools among the gods. Part of the Yoga Vasishta is trying to encourage self-inquiry, and it does it by quite crude means sometimes. It's like it's trying to sell us this teaching and sell us the benefits of it. So it's saying this is what great beings do. They pursue this teaching of self-inquiry. But I think there's a danger to that it's only for these lofty beings. So then we hear that there are actually stupid fools among the gods, and liberated beings even among worms and insects. But I pointed out that it doesn't make sense for us to talk about worms or insects getting liberated, because liberation is about liberation from your notions of reality. And to have notions, you need to have a particular capacity to think. So whether worms and insects have that capacity is a moot point. But we can understand them being liberated because we're told that the self is in all. It exists as the all everywhere at all times and in all ways. So we can understand that everything is actually of the essence of liberated awareness. The self alone is the Lord and all the divinities. So everything is of the nature of the essential self, which is awareness. Everything arises in awareness, and whatever arises in awareness is non-different from awareness. This is the self. There is void, space in substances, and substantiality in the void or space. So we're being told it's space here, but we're talking about void, and void is what allows everything to be. And we can understand that as awareness, because it's awareness that allows everything to be. So there is void in substances. Everything arises in the void. So the first part, there is void in substances, is saying that everything is of the nature of awareness, and substantiality in the void, which is saying that everything arises in awareness. What is inappropriate appears to be appropriate on inquiry. In other words, whatever we examine, we find that it is actually of the essence of awareness. When you're aware of something, there's not two things. There's not awareness and the thing you're aware of. There is just the thing. People are righteous because they are afraid of the consequences of sin. Even what is not leads to what is. So what it's saying here is there's actually no sin whatsoever. But being afraid of the consequences of sin, people adopt right practices. I think I don't know if I'd go along with that. It's a little bit of it's a somewhat crude analysis. But then again, that's the approach that Yoga Vasishta is taking sometimes, and also it's the approach that traditional spiritual teachings take. Pursue self-inquiry because you don't want to get a bad birth, a bad rebirth, or a bad reincarnation. I think if you pursue something in the wrong spirit, you might stumble onto the right path at some point, but if you're pursuing it in the wrong spirit, that's going to have consequences for you. The contemplation of the space or void leads to the attainment of the supreme truth. So whatever your reason for getting into the contemplation of the space or void, you should get to the truth eventually. So contemplation of the space or void is contemplation of existence, of everything that arises in awareness, or is contemplation of the awareness within which everything arises. What is not comes into being, guided by time and space. What is not is the whole world appearance, and it apparently comes into being because we've got these parameters of time and space which we approach things through, which the senses operate in accordance with. On the other hand, what appears to be strong and powerful reaches its own destruction. Again, this is the world appearance. It passes away. Everything within it passes away at some point. Thus, perceiving the truth, O Ram, abandon joy and sorrow, grief and attachment. The unreal appears to be real, and the real appears to be unreal. Hence give up hope and hopelessness and attain equanimity. So the real appears to be unreal. Our awareness seems so intangible, insubstantial, that we overlook it most of the time and probably don't even want to give it the time of day in considering it. We'd rather get caught up in our own notions about things, spend all our time getting on with practicalities, being realistic, which isn't realistic at all. In this world, O Ram, liberation is at hand at all times, everywhere. I've said before that you stumble upon realization, and you probably stumble upon it several times a day without realizing what it is. You're aware, and you must have a sense of this awareness from time to time, but you don't give it the time of day. You brush it aside and get on with the demands of your hectic lifestyle. By their own self-effort, millions of beings have attained liberation. Liberation is either easy or difficult, depending upon one's wisdom or unwisdom. Hence, O Ram, kindle the lamp of wisdom in yourself. By the vision of the self is sorrow beheaded. There have been countless beings in this world who have attained self-knowledge and liberation while yet living, like the Emperor Janaka. Therefore, do thou become liberated here and now. The attainment of inner peace by utter non-attachment to anything here is known as liberation. This is possible whether the body exists or not. This distinction between the body existing or not is one that I've covered previously, and we don't need to bother about it. He who is freed from all attachment is liberated. One should wisely and intelligently exert oneself to attain this liberation. One who does not exert cannot even jump over the footprint of a calf. You can't do anything, basically. All your notions about doing something are deluded. Hence, O Ram, resort to spiritual heroism, to right exertion, and by the right self-inquiry, strive to reach the perfection of self-knowledge. For one who thus strives, the entire universe is like the footprint of a calf. Well, it's slightly bigger than the footprint of a calf. It's about this big.